You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Matt Money Smith here from Believe in Chargers. Let's talk about Gusto. I appreciate you small business owners. You're the heartbeat of America, but at times, time can get away from you. Let Gusto take care of how your business operates. Automate your payroll. Get some HR with Gusto. It is the fastest way to cut friction so you can focus on what moves the needle and leads to success. So how does Gusto do it? Gusto is online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It is all in one, remote friendly, and incredibly easy to use so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. They're ranked number one on G2's highest satisfaction products list for 2026, and you'll be joining 400,000 small businesses that use Gusto. It is simple. It is quick to switch to Gusto. Just transfer your existing data to get up and running fast. Plus, don't pay a cent until you run your first payroll. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/believe. That's GUSTO.com/believe, BLEAV. And you're going to get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. Again, that is 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/believe. Again, one more time, gusto.com/believe.
O'Reilly.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. The service is free and provides a report with solutions verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we could recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Welcome to the Irish NFL Show on the Believe Network, brought to you in association with QuinBet. It doesn't seem like too long since we were watching the Packers and Bears play epic games on frozen turf at Lambeau and Soldier Field, but the only ice in our minds right now is the one cooling our drinks. It's time we took a look at the NFC North, though, to see what lies ahead for the 2026-27 season. We've also broken down the AFC North, East and West, and the NFC East and West so far this summer. So if you haven't heard those already, please check out at your podcast platform of choice, or you can find them on our Irish NFL Show website or indeed our YouTube channel. But it's to the north we go now. Craig Rigdon, Shane Brennan and Kieran O'Donovan with me, Conor Brophy. And we begin with the Minnesota Vikings, Craig, who were bottom of the division but still managed to post a winning record, which testifies to the strength and depth that this division has. The Vikings still need to solve a quarterback conundrum of their own making.
Yeah, that's a really good place to start, because it's actually one of my big talking points of this is that quarterback competition that's going to go through camp.
Big talking points, small guy.
Yes. Yeah, well, yes, absolutely, because Kyler Murray is the presumptive starter at the moment. If you look at the reps that have been going on so far, but if McCarthy outplays him, then he is in with a shout. And then, O'Connell has a pretty big dilemma. But the biggest dilemma that he may have this season going forward is that Kevin O'Connell is 37-15 when his named starter plays the majority of the season. But in the 2 seasons that he hasn't had that, they've gone 16-18, 0 playoff appearances. He's burned through 8 different starting quarterbacks in 4 seasons. And he's now got McCarthy, who's missed 25 of his first 35 games, and Kyler Murray, who hasn't played a full season 4 times in the last 5 years. So he's now got 2 injury-prone quarterbacks with a record that doesn't bode well when he has to go to his third-choice quarterback. So this is going to be a really, really big offseason to find out, can they stay healthy and who is the best of the 2. Kyler Murray, obviously an ex-number-1 pick. Up and down, he really can. When he shows it, Kyler Murray can be electric and really run an offense, but he is such a hot and cold player that you never know what you're going to get. It didn't work out in Arizona. They've obviously now moved on. He's now with the Vikings. And then you look at the other side with...
What intrigued me about the parting of ways there between himself and Cliff Kingsbury, Craig, is that Cliff Kingsbury now has largely rebuilt his reputation through what he did with Jaden Daniels in Washington, and is now the assistant head coach in LA. And who knows, may even win himself a Super Bowl ring as part of that staff if the season goes the way they hope it will. Kyler Murray has gone very much the other direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he actually has had an okay career. 121 touchdowns to 60 interceptions. It isn't too bad. 67.1% completion percentage, also not bad. It is the injuries that seem to hold him back and everything else. He's on a vet minimum deal of 1.3 million. You can't read too much into that because the Cardinals are paying him 35 million. So it doesn't really work out in that way that you think you're going to get a bargain. But if it does work out for the Vikings, it is an absolute bargain for them because they've paid almost nothing. Can O'Connell do for Murray what he did for Darnold? That's the big question.
Shane, the Vikings are plus 525 with the bookies to win the NFC North, which puts them fourth out of 4 teams. But like, everybody's in with a shout if you look at the way this one shakes out. Like, the Bears, having won the division last year, are third in the betting. The Lions are favourites and the Packers are second favourites. But there's not much in it. So basically, what the Cognoscenti in the desert are telling us is that if Kyler Murray is a little bit better than expected, if the Packers' mini rebuild isn't as good as expected, if the Lions don't roar again with players back fit, and if Ben Johnson doesn't kick on in year 2, the Vikings could win this thing.
Well, this is the beauty of the NFC North, is why it's the best division in the league, is the fact that you've got 4 teams with significant quality from top to bottom, and it really is the fine margins. We saw this with the Detroit Lions last year. We'll talk about them later on, how they sort of fell by with a couple of unfortunate injuries. I think the big thing for me with the Vikings, though, is, yes, this quarterback competition is interesting. And I don't think that whoever is going to be starting week 1 is going to end up starting week 17 or at least straight way through, because either through injury or through form, something's going to change up in that hierarchy. I struggle to see a situation where either Kyler Murray or JJ McCarthy start throughout. It'd be interesting to know, like, in terms of once training camp starts, all the talk right now is that it's going to be Kyler Murray, but once training camp starts, can Kyler Murray actually work in the fairly regimented, well-planned Kevin O'Connell system? Because Kyler Murray's been used to playing pretty unstructured football for the last, I don't know how many years in Arizona, whether unstructured football as part of the plan or as part of it being unplanned. And he needs to sort of really work himself into a structure. And I have a funny feeling that even though he might be he seems to be brought in as a top pick or as a presumptive number 1, and is working as presumptive number 1 now. By the time we get to training camp and he actually has to stick to what Kevin O'Connell tells him to do, does JJ McCarthy then creep back in at the start? It's going to be really interesting one to see. And I think actually what Justin Jefferson thinks is going to end up being he's going to end up being the kingmaker in terms of which quarterback he wants to throw into him over the course of the season. So I can see that controversy swinging in a couple of different ways, which isn't the kind of chaos you want if you're the Minnesota Vikings come up against 3 other behemoths in the division. But the defense is going to be really interesting here. You look at what they did in the draft, bringing in Caleb Banks, defensive line for Florida. In the second round, Jake Golday, linebacker from Cincinnati. Those 2 very aggressive, high area, sort of Brian Flores type defenders, really trying to bolster that unit. I think that's the strength that they're really trying to lean on here. Because you remember, as much as we talk about the quarterback and the offense and how good they were a couple of years ago with Sam Darnold under center, like, what they haven't been really able to do is to have a consistent run game for him to back up on if the quarterback situation is a bit in flux. We know that Aaron Jones was out for a significant chunk of the season last year with injury, and they didn't really have anybody to back it up. But you look at what worked for Sam Darnold in Seattle, he was backed up by Charbonnet and Walker, and that's how Seattle built in. There was a good mix. I feel like the offense is almost so focused on what the quarterback has to do. The defense is going to end up being out there for longer periods of the time. I think we're going to see a lot of time of possession in the opposition's hands. So the defense is going to have to be pressured. There's probably going to be an onus on them to get scores. There's going to be an onus on them to put the pressure on from the start. And I think I think they realize that inside the building. We see that with the way that they drafted here. They're not drafting for offensive line and trying to protect whoever is going with the quarterback. They're not drafting for talent. I think they had 5 picks in the top 100, 4 of them went for defense, and all of the guys are the kind of guys that you would expect Brian Flores to go for if he wants guys not to necessarily be the kind of snipers or to be the sort of tactical people, but the people to go hell for leather, going for the quarterback and knocking him down. So I think this defense actually might end up being a real strong point over the course of the season, and getting turnovers and takeaways like we saw what Chicago did last year, I think is going to be key to their success this year.
Kieran, talk to us about the pressure that the Vikings are under, because pressure comes in different forms in the NFC North, and it's all relative. You could argue the Packers are under pressure. You can certainly argue the Lions are under pressure. The Bears are under pressure to replicate what they did last season. But the Vikings have created a lot of pressure of their own. And we saw in the offseason, General Manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was one of the scapegoats for a poor draft and poor free agent class, which, in fairness, as general manager, he would tend to be the scapegoat if that's why they're making the decisions. This is a guy who was one of the most widely admired GMs in the league and one of the best young executives in the league of long standing, or so we had thought that his stock was. But he's out the door because the Vikings went from 14-3, very much seen as Super Bowl contenders, to letting the quarterback out the door who goes and wins the Super Bowl with the Seahawks, as Shane mentioned. Daniel Jones goes to Indianapolis, and before his injury looks like the Daniel Jones of old. And the Vikings bring in JJ McCarthy, and it doesn't quite work, in fairness to him, largely because of injury. But the free agent class of last year, you've seen Javon Hargrave, that didn't work out. He's out the door. You saw Jonathan Allen, that didn't work out. He's out the door. Jonathan Grenard, who came the other way into the Neil Hunter trade. There's no not too much intrigue in figuring out who did the best out of that deal. It was the Texans. So the Vikings have made a lot of mistakes and mismanaged their roster over the last couple of years, and they're under a lot of pressure as a result, because they felt like they were knocking on the door, and now they're trying to claw their way out of the basement.
Yeah, I think they put a lot of pressure on themselves for all the reasons you just mentioned, but I don't quite see it that way as you come into this season. In fact, as you look at the 4 teams in this division, I would put the Vikings as the team under the least amount of pressure in terms of what's expected of them this season. Yes, absolutely. For all the reasons you mentioned, letting a rejuvenated Sam Darnold out the door who goes on and wins the Super Bowl. I think that's the biggest what if scenario. One of the biggest what if scenarios in the entire league, because you had an offense that was absolutely stacked, did what it did 2 seasons ago. And for whatever reason, maybe it was the fact that they thought that Sam Darnold was going to revert to type again. They didn't roll the dice with him again for another season, and ultimately it paid off for him instead of the Vikings. But yeah, I don't see them. I see them as the team coming into this division and this season under the least amount of pressure, because you mentioned they came 4th in the division last year, but while posting a winning record, that probably would have won the NFC South or come close to it. You know what I mean? I mean, they're still a really talented team, really talented roster. I know I'm jumping
if I'd all over the every time somebody said
and it was me last week as well.
The NFC South.
All right, I promise that's the last time I'll make that comparison. But I do think that the upside is at the ceiling. The potential ceiling is still very high when you look at what they have on offense. Well, I mean, when you look at the weapons that they have in terms of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, what they can do with a rejuvenated Kyler Murray, who I do think is going to be the week 1 starter. I think that's going to be very, very, very exciting. And, when you add what Kyler Murray can do with his legs off script, and I know I'm taking Kieran's bottom left position here on the screen this week. I really should be going on a huge rant about Kyler Murray right now. But there is, the offseason is the time for hope. And all of the Vikings fans are going to hope that they get the best version of the Kyler Murray that's going to be studying in the offseason instead of playing video games. And the guy that's going to be shaken up by KOC, the quarterback whisperer, and he's going to win that, take that position by the scruff of the neck, win it, and lead the team through the season. So there's huge upside, and obviously then you've got the Brian Flores defense and what everything that Shane said about the pressure they're going to put on. The one thing that I would say is the sooner that Kevin O'Connell makes his decision on the starting quarterback, the better. Let it be an open competition and let somebody else come in and take the reins throughout the season if need be. But you've got an offensive line there who are praying that they know who they're going to be protecting as early as possible, because they got to get their schemes right. And 2 different quarterbacks present 2 different challenges for an offensive line. You've got receivers who want to develop chemistry. As much as the quarterbacks want to be taking every rep and they're complaining about having to split reps, you've probably got receivers out there saying, Jesus, will you just make a decision, because it's two completely different quarterbacks, two completely different throwing mechanics. And so I want to get my reps and I wanted to build my chemistry. You've got Justin Jefferson there, Jordan Addison, all those guys I named. You know, you want to give them as much time to gel with the perceived starter as possible. So I think it would do everybody a favor in the organization if that battle, or that quarterback battle or controversy, does not continue too far into the preseason.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations, because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.